Okay, so this is some very simple code, just scrolling through the numbers. You can see I've gone through and have a lot of show number blocks, and I'm just scrolling through the numbers 1 through 9. And I want to show you that there's other ways that you can cycle through a series of values if you wanted to do that. And that is with something called these loops. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out because I want to show you a cleaner way to do this. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do this repeat loop. Okay. So I want to display a number. And so I actually need to create a variable. So I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it number. And the first thing I need to do is I need to just set that number value to 0. So right now I have a variable called number. It's set to equal to 0. And I want to show that number in this loop. So I'm going to bring in my variable and it's going to show the number. And you can see it shows it. It's just showing 0. And it's showing it 4 times. I don't really know that it's showing it 4 times because it's just constant on there, but I want it to be dynamic. I want it to change. So I'm going to go over here to my variables and I'm going to change the number by 1. And after I change the number by 1, I want it to show that number and it's going to kind of loop through this. I can see it's kind of looping over here. Many times it's actually going higher than 10. I don't want it to go higher than 10. So actually, I only want it to go up through the number 9. So I'm going to change this value to 9. And the other thing I need to do is once it's cycled through 9 times, I want to set my number back down to 0. And I want to show that number one more time so that I've kind of reset. Okay, so let's kind of see what my simulator shows me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oop, 0. I got to change this to 10. Try it again. Back down to 0. Okay, so it cycles through. That is one way that you can use a loop to change a value. Okay, do these iterations. I want to show you another way as well. So I'm going to bring that over here. I'm going to bring this variable value over here. And I'm going to go back to my loops. And instead of picking this repeat 4 times, I'm going to pick this for index. And right now, the fact that I brought this out, I've actually created a variable called index. And so if I go to here, you can see that I have this variable called index. I'm going to start with my index being 0. And the index is just like a counter. And so we want it to just continue to count, continue to count, continue to count. And I want it to count 9 times from 0 to 9. So the first time it counts, it is 0. So it'll be my first value. And I'm just going to change and display now my index value. So come over here. Again, same thing I had before. I just keep displaying 0. I want to actually display my counter number. So I'm going to bring this index value right here. And it should now cycle through my numbers. And then it goes back to 0 automatically. I don't have to change my value back to 0 and show that value. It automatically runs through. So this index loop is kind of nice because it's essentially like a counting system. So keep in mind though, it's from 0 to 9. So this will actually do this 10 times. But it's a nice way if you have repetitive things in your code to just say, I want you to do this X amount of times, and then whatever you want it to do, you just put it inside here. Okay, so some useful blocks in that loop section.